Hey everyone, how's it going? Cell here, and welcome to my first League Starter update video for Ultimatum League. I haven't had a ton of time to play between the server issues and just the time I had available, but I just made it to maps not too long ago, pretty much just starting my progression there, and yeah, not going to comment on the server issues or the things because I don't really care about them enough to comment. It sucks that I didn't get to play as much on League Launch Day, but oh well, it's in the past now, so not too worried about it. Apart from that, I decided to go with, as my starter, a Scion using one of the blood skills. That's pretty much all I had going into it, and as you can tell from the footage in the background, I landed on Exsanguinate, and I did have a couple of different options bouncing around between like Spell Slinger and like using Ball Lightning or Kinetic Blast to apply stacks of Corrupting Blood quickly with all that was going on. So like, for example, I could Spell Sling an Exsanguinate or Reap or both and use Kinetic Blast to apply Corrupting Blood as clear, and the Spell Slinger aspect of it would be mostly for a single target. And I pretty much landed on Exsanguinate because once I got Chain in the mix, it started feeling a whole lot better than initially. It chains very interestingly compared to a lot of other skills, probably because it's not a projectile, but honestly it feels very sound even with just the chain support. Haven't looked into other ways I could possibly get chains just yet, but that is something I'll be looking into. I think Deadeye still gets a chain, but I don't think it would be worth playing on a Deadeye necessarily. I guess you could because you're close to some generic damage over time notables, being in the shadow area, and you could just cut over through the middle to the fist stuff, but yeah, that's a job for someone zanier than I feel like being right now. So I went the pretty standard approach of Scion with Gladiator, of course, and Necromancer for offerings. And things have been going pretty well so far, I would say. So yeah, that being said, you can see how it handles ultimatums here. I'm a pretty big fan of ultimatums in general, and it seems like a really great league mechanic so far. Of course, I am a bit biased for a reason I'll get into shortly. Actually, I guess I can just jump in right now, actually. So, as I said, pretty much just got into maps. Take a look at my atlas here. I've got 7 maps completed so far. The clear demo I showed you was a tier 1 coves, of course. And that was a few levels ago. I'm now level 75. And I did end up getting a tabula from ultimatums during leveling, I think in Act 5? Nope, Act 6. And then I ended up getting another one in Act 10. So yeah, I'm biased in that if you find a tabula from the league mechanic, you probably think it's pretty good. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. Apart from that, most of my other gear is kind of mediocre. Boots are honestly pretty good. If I had landed a better enchantment, it would be even better. Let's see, what would be good enchantments? Attack and cast speed if you killed recently would be good. Leech, if you've killed recently, would also be good because it's nice to be able to handle some of the regen, or the cost of the skill. Currently costing 145. However, with a life tap, which is probably one I'm going to run at some point, over Swift Affliction, goes up to 232. Yeah, so apart from that, all the other gear is kind of decent. This has a decent amount of res. This ring is one of my best items for sure. Amethyst base with a bunch of good resistances and room for life. Amulet's mediocre. Helmet is absolute garbage. That's the next thing I'm probably going to replace. Belt is also pretty terrible. Weapon and shield. I use this weapon that I found from an ultimatum, of course, at I don't know, probably in the, what eye level is this, 44? Yeah, so that must have been like Act 5-ish. This ring I got from an Ultimatum, same as I got this tabula from. And shield I used for the longest time that I got. It's an eye level 36 shield, so yeah, it's pretty hard to replace given it's got so much life and a resist on it. Okay, it actually wasn't hard to replace, but had a high enough life that I kept it for a while. I just made the shield, and by made I mean I augmented, or I transmuted a white fossilized spirit shield for life, then I augmented block, and then I regaled cast speed, all of which are crazy good mods for me, so then I just crafted some damage, because why not? Like I said, went with Ascendant Gladiator and Necro Gladiator, bunch of block, maximum block is nice. Blind on hit would be more relevant if I was going like Spellslinger or something. And of course more of his damage over time is great. Necro is pretty much just for offerings, and in my case, block at the moment. Then eventually, once I pick up Path of the Witch, I'll be able to spec into here, or possibly go for more cast speed depending on what I feel like I need at the time, instead of doing this whole cut over thing. And there's a good chance I'm speccing out of this completely, because ideally I want points to be able to reach all the way over to Growth and Decay, as well as Arcane Swiftness. Normally you would like want to anoint something like Arcane Swiftness on this build, because I'm going to have 75% chance to block attack damage, so that'll be 75% increased spell damage. But I also want to anoint this, which is going to be whatever my block chance is as extra damage. And that's a lot further away and with less... Okay, it's not further away, but there are less relevant nodes that make the travel worthwhile. So I'm going to try to get Arcane Swiftness. But yeah, the tree is kind of a mess right now because until I get this, it kind of felt like a waste to cut over until I just kind of had to. So I'll just deal with the respecking later. Regrets in SSF, which I mean if I didn't mention that, tend to pile up later on in the game anyways, so yeah, I'm likely to spec out of a bunch of different stuff for a cluster setup. And I don't know if I'm going to keep Call to Arms yet. If I do, then I'm only a few points away from another cluster setup if I want to go for that. But it's possible I don't want to be past the Vitality Extraction cluster down in this direction. So yeah, and then this will end up getting lost for life regen, or if I'm lucky enough to get an Unnatural Instinct, I can go down the mana path and socket that here, and that'll net me all of this cast speed and life and fizz damage over here, life regen rather. That would come at the cost of, I believe, losing notables though, so I don't know if that would be worth it anyways, for me in particular. But it's unlikely to happen, so I probably won't do that anyways. One slight annoyance I'm running into right now with Corrupting Fever is I'm running Efficacy because, well, only half of it applies to Corrupting Fever because it doesn't scale off of spell damage. So it only gets more damage over time and skill effect duration. So ideally that would be a life tap support, which would grant 27% more damage instead of 22, with no duration of course. It would jack up the cost immensely, so instead of $8.59 it would be $13.20 it looks like. Pretty big deal, but you only activate it once ideally. But the problem is, this refreshes after I spend 185 life, and this costs less than 185 life. So there are still situations in which I run for a decent amount of time, or I'm not using Exsanguinate, that I have to use it twice, and so I'll have like 2 or 3 seconds left, and I'll use it once, and I'll move around, and then it'll expire before I use it again, and suddenly I have to chunk my life in the middle of a pack or something if I want to turn it on. So I usually just don't bother, which means it's a damage loss. But if I swap out Swift Affliction for Life Tap, not only, well, it's going to be less damage, but then once I have like my final gear setup and I'm not using a tabula, I can just swap out that for Chain in single target situations for now, I'll probably just stick with this and keep leveling the life taps. But if I do make that switch, I'll use a life tap here instead of efficacy for Corrupting Fever, and one instead of Swift Affliction for Exsanguinate. But yeah, other than that, I'm using, in terms of auras, Malevolence, Vitality, and War Banner. I don't have my War Banner linked to Generosity at the moment. I guess I could now at this point, actually. Remove this life tap, put in Generosity instead of this Vitality here, and swap that down here or something. Because if you put a Generosity on War Banner, it'll have increased effect, and since I don't care about the benefits to me, I'm fine with losing those for enemies taking even more increased physical damage. There are higher damage setups using like a Flesh and Stone with Maim linked, but the area on that is so small that I feel like it's not really worth it for me. I'd have to get into such a close area to get the damage benefit that I don't really care that much about it. Plus my Vitality is pretty important to me right now. I'm trying to get a decent amount of life regen, and that's reserving a significant portion of my mana. So yeah, likely, like the Flesh and Stone would most likely replace Malevolence, and I'd try to squeeze in a Purity, Herald of Purity, as well. But that might be something I end up trying to do anyways. This is 60% plus whatever Vitality takes, so if I can get some decent reduced reservation somewhere or enough mana that I don't feel like my Vitality is ruining me, then I'll try to squeeze in probably a Herald of Purity for 12% more physical damage. That being said, I'm not in dire need of, what are they called? Divines at the moment, so I've got an extra tabula here, let's, do that. Pretty much what I expected to happen, but, you know, you gotta try it in case you get like a plus duration tabula or something. That would be a pretty crazy start, even a plus damage tabula. Have that for the rest of the league for leveling, that'd be pretty nice, and obviously benefit from it right now. Yeah, that being said, as for gear progression, oh, I forgot to go over this. Block chance, sitting at 59.51 right now, which is great, and gaining about 180 life, 183 life on block, which will go up as Bone Offering levels up. Still only level 16. That'll go up to like 250 something in the end. Remember that I only get half effect. And I can eventually get a Shaper Shield as well for percentage life recovered on block, which would be great because, like I said, I can eventually most likely get to block cap in both spell and attack on this character without glancing blows, as a reminder to keep pressing the wrong key. So yeah, that'll be very nice to have. Once I get into yellow maps, should be able to get a trigger wand of some kind. The nerf that happened this league doesn't matter because all of our skills will last 8 seconds anyways. The setup will be Desecrate, Bone Offering, and Tempest Shield, which will be another 3% block from Tempest Shield. And yeah, in case you're not aware, the trigger wand or trigger craft for spells, each skill socketed in has a separate cooldown. So it's not like skill 1 you use or trigger and then you wait 8 seconds and then skill 2 triggers. No, they all trigger in a row and will have cooldowns from when they trigger initially. So yeah, it's not really a nerf at all for this type of character, but it is for some, for sure. That being said, I'm enjoying things so far. The Ultimatum League mechanic is pretty great, and Exsanguinate is performing better than I expected, honestly. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. If you watched this far, thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe, leave me a comment. How's your league start going? Let me know. What kind of character you're playing, something new, something old, something you've never done before. Let me know. I'm excited to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.